This is the Puck Junk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. I'm Sal Berry and with me is Tim Parish. And today we are going to talk about the NHL Awards, the NHL Draft, NHL Free Agency. Man, a lot of stuff happened in the past week. Tim, how have you been? It's been a while since we've last spoken, since our interview with our friends over at Upper Deck, which was actually very well received by our listeners, by the way. But I think that was the last time we talked.
Yeah, who's the guest tonight?
It's just us, my friend.
Just me? Oh, damn.
Yeah.
I don't want to listen to myself.
Just you and the voice in your head.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Fine as frog's hair, as they used to say. I don't know when they used to say it, but I know that's a saying. I've heard it before.
Yeah. So everything was going on in Vegas. Yeah, I mean, with the awards and with the draft, and there was something I think you wanted to tell me that was Vegas related that you said was interesting.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the video that's been going around social media of the guy wearing the mask, it's interesting. There's this guy posts a video. He's got a crazy loud shirt on. He's wearing a mask still. I don't know why, but whatever. And he goes up to this machine that's got the PSA logo all over it. And it's in the middle of the Plaza Hotel. Doesn't look like it's on the casino floor. It looks like it's somewhere else because you don't see the slot machines or anything everywhere. And you don't see the weirdly colored carpeted floor. So you know it's not on the proper, gaming floor. But it's got the PSA logo on the top, on the sides, everywhere else. Supposedly PSA claims they have nothing to do with this thing. But essentially it's a machine that you put your money in and you choose what you want, which there's only one choice, and it's a mystery pack that's been repacked for Pokémon cards that are PSA graded. I think it has sports cards possibly in it too, but I know Pokémon is listed on the side. It's a big display. And you can get a PSA 10 guaranteed Pokémon card repacked in this nice little packaging that's vended from this machine. So you're asking yourself, in the world of one-armed bandits, how does a machine like this get permission, I guess, to be used? All I could think of as soon as I saw this was, number one, do you have to wear a mask to use it? That was the first thing I wondered because it was really weird. Second, you have to use a credit card. It doesn't take cash. So obviously they're tracking something and they're following and checking so they know, basically they know who's buying from this machine. But it's gambling. We all know this is. We all know that that's what this is. You open packs, it's gambling. You buy boxes, it's gambling. But the odds are posted. There's no odds posted on this machine. It doesn't say how many of each card's in there. It doesn't say anything. It shows this nice PSA 10 Charizard on the side, which everybody wants because it could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and whatever. But we don't know what's in there. We have no odds. We have no nothing. So this is a complete gamble. So for $50, you're going to get God knows what. The card that the guy pulled out of it was like a $14 card on eBay.
So you get one card.
Yes, one card. It comes in a nice little box, clamshell box that you open up, and there's like a space in it for the PSA slab, and it's like stuck in it. Now this guy seemed to think it was like a box of cards, and then he opens it up. He's like, "Oh, it's just one card. Oh, maybe there's more." And he lifts it up. Nope, no, there isn't more. It's just the one card. And then it shows that they looked it up and saw that it was only worth like $14, and off they went. So the question that's raging all around social media is this going to draw the eyeballs of the regulatory commissions that monitor gambling and put more eyeballs on the trading card industry from people that most of us probably don't want eyeballs on it?
First thing I want to say is when you mentioned credit card and like, oh, they're tracking you. Yeah, well, they can do that because obviously it's capturing that information. I think it's just to make it easier, right? Like if you go $50, oh, cash, right? Like if you're in a casino, you might have a 50 on you. You might just have cash them in for chips. But everybody's got some sort of credit card or debit card on them now. So I could see where it would just be a convenience factor. I mean, when you put cash in a machine, then it could be subject to getting broken into and that cash getting stolen, and then somebody has to collect that cash, right? So that's an extra set of problems that don't exist if you only do cards now. I'm not advocating for a cashless society. I'm just understanding that this makes it a lot easier when you just accept a credit card. The other thing is that with the credit card, it makes it easier to spend more. Because I remember, like, I'd go to the card shop and I'd come in with my $20 or $30 of disposable income. And I'm not talking about as a kid, I'm talking about in my mid to late 30s, right? I was still broke. And like, I'd see guys come in and be like, yeah, I'll buy a box of exquisite basketball for $300. And then he'd run the credit card and then he'd go, oh, you know what? Just run my card again. Let me buy that last box, right? And that's the thing. Like, when it's a credit card, it's a little easier to just kind of lose track or to buy another one, or like that whole gambler's fallacy, like, oh, well, I got a $14 card and a $20 card. So now I'm due to get a good card if I keep playing. But like you said, they don't post odds. So is it really random, or is it just like a gumball machine where you just kind of get the one that's closest to the bottom?
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, you look at what's available, and that's the other thing too. It's labeled as a vending machine. So any vending, you think of vending machine, all right, I'm going to go get a pop out of the vending machine, or soda if you're from that part of the country. Or you're going to get a bag of chips or a candy bar or something out of the vending machine, because vending machine says, I'm putting money in, I'm getting something out. But also in the advertising that displays on the big monitor screen is win huge, mystery box, mystery pack. And that raises the whole question of repackers. And repackers have invaded this hobby. I mean, they've always been around, but it's so prevalent now. And the vast majority of the people that are making any money out there at shows and such are getting raided by the repackers because there's such a hot area of, I shouldn't say hot area, that sounds weird. You can edit that part out. It's such a hot market right now that they can't keep enough inventory.
The repack market you're talking
Yeah.
about.
So I mean, you see it every weekend when there's a show. Guys are posting on all their things like, yeah, I set up at the show and I had no inventory left after an hour. Like a repacker came up and bought like everything I have, and they're buying everything, and they're paying 90+% of comps to get all of this, so they can distribute their inventory amongst the product that they carry for these repacks, because they're making their money back, but they're giving away tons and tons of junk slabs.
Yeah, I just want to interject really quick. Repackers, if you're listening, visit the Puck Junk booth at the National. I will be booth number 700 this year. Please come, bring a backpack and money, and you could load up on some hockey cards for your next repack endeavor. I'm glad that you brought up the term junk slab, because it's a funny term, because when a card is slabbed, it's considered more valuable. Like, or slabs. Like, I hate that term. Like, I didn't even understood what it meant the first time I heard it, when it was just like, oh yeah, let's see your slabs, man. Oh, that's a great slab. And I had no idea what people were talking about. Right? I catch on quickly, right?
But they weren't as prevalent as they are now. That was kind of in the early days.
Well, no, but the thing is that everybody's like, yeah, I'm going to grade this 87 Tops baseball checklist, and it's going to be a PSA 10, and it's going to be the only PSA 10 baseball checklist from 87. And dude, that's like a really sad goal. I mean, when you look through those boxes and it says like graded cards, $5 each, and you're like, you look and you're just like, who the hell would grade this card? Right? You look and you go, why was this card graded? There's nothing special about it. It's not even rare. Why waste your money? Why waste your time? I don't know.
I mean, that happened more so during the pandemic. I mean, that's really what happened. We saw what happened to all of the grading card companies. They got bogged down with so much stuff that got submitted, and it took forever for them to get caught up.
Dude, they got caught up in November because when I was at the expo in Toronto, there was so much graded stuff I thought I was gonna go blind. Like, table after table after table of nothing but graded, or 80% of their cards were graded. I would just, like, walk by. Maybe I'd slow down and look a little bit, but, like, yeah, they're caught up, and there is a glut of graded cards.
I agree. Because everybody was sending everything in, whether it needed to be or not, just like your 87 tops checklist. I mean, they were sending all that crap in. The worst is all the base cards, like especially for baseball, like all the tops rookie base cards. I mean, they were just getting inundated with these things. Those and the rookie cup cards, and you know the Bowman, as my favorite term, Bowman paper versions of the cards. Not chrome, but the paper version. They're all paper. So much stuff has zero business being graded. Look, I bought a collection one time. There were a bunch of graded cards in it. I've never sent anything in to be graded, but it's all like 91, 91, 92 upper deck. Forsberg rookie, the Hashik. I forget who else is in there. There's somebody else in there. There's like a ton of them, and they were all in there, and they're like 9s and 10s. And it's like, here's a pile of these. There's like 10 of each of them. And you look up the population counts on these, and it's just a ridiculous number. And, to us, these are cards that sometimes just sit in boxes because there's just so much of it. There's just a giant glut of it. But, here we are now having vending machines where whoever made the vending machine is now taking advantage of the repack idea and popping these things in there and trying to unload them on people. So whether you spend $50 on a repack for some group breaker or whoever it is online, or you go all the way to Vegas and go all the way down to Fremont Street and go all the way into Fremont Street to the plaza and find whatever floor this vending machine is on, it's the same thing. It just might cost you slightly more to get to Vegas to do that.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, there was a card vending machine at our Kmart. I think it was our local Kmart, and I remember that I think you'd get like 2 cards for a quarter, and they'd come in like a cardboard, like a little cardboard sleeve that would like fold over the cards to keep them nice. And I remember, like, like when you see like the gumball machine and it shows like all the different things that you could get. So it had like a spread of like cards, not actually the cards. It was like a color photo. The card that was front and center was the 85 Mark McGuire rookie card, where he's in the Team USA Olympic baseball uniform. And, at the time, that was like a $15, $20 card. So that was like the card that they were teasing, like, you could get this card, right? And I think I spent like $1. I think I bought like 4, whatever, like tried it 4 times. And I think all I got were like 88 Donruss and like 89 Tops baseball. I don't think I got anything earlier than 87. And I just remember, just getting these cards and being like, wow, that sucked. I just basically paid 25 cents for 2 cards worth of nickel each. And then I remember, oh God, maybe in like 2009 or something, I was at a mall and they had this vending machine, and it was called Star Cards. And it had like a glowy sign. I remember I wrote a blog post about it and you commented on it. I remember that. That's like when we first started talking, when you first started commenting on my blog.
You remember that I commented on it?
Well, listen, whenever I got a blog comment, it was such a big deal in like 2007, 2008, 2009. Those are like really lean days. Like, oh my God, somebody's reading this. Really? Wow. Right. But anyways, so I remember like I think I spent like $4 or $5 just for the fun of it, and I think that like it would give you 2 hockey cards. There was like a hockey card, baseball, football, basketball, hockey. So I kept doing like hockey cards. And I think the cards just fell out. They just kind of fell into the like, and you'd open it and slide the cards out. They weren't in any sort of protector or anything. But yeah, man, this stuff just keeps getting regurgitated, right? And it gets mixed up and rebought and repackaged and regurgitated. We buy a Fairfield repack box, we open it, we go, great, there's a ton of Bowman from 90, 91 Bowman hockey in here, right? And Then we throw them all in a box and then we sell them to some dealer for $5 for 1,000 or 5,000 cards, and then he turns around and resells. It's all recycled.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole thing, You get a table wiped out at a show, and the next thing you know, there's all that guy's inventory showing up in the Mega Super Mojo pack by ABC Breaker or something like that. And it's like 90% of the cards that are available in there are not even worth your buy-in. But there's that one. Yeah, it could be $50,000. Lord knows if it's actually in there or not. But I digress. So.
Yeah, and I know that like DA Card World, they sell something called Hit Parade of Champions, which is basically a repack.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, well, I'm familiar with the Hit Parade because somebody came to my table and they sold me a hockey card. This was at a national 2 years ago. They had a pretty good hockey card. The guy's like, "Look, I'm a baseball fan. I don't know anything about hockey. I don't care. I just want to recoup my money. Would you give me this much?" And I looked at the card and I said, "Yeah, that's cool." And then he was happy. I was happy. But then I looked at it and then they like said, they like list out all the potential cards that you could get, which is good. They tell you like what's possible to get in a box. But yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes you should just do what you want, but I think it's sometimes better to just buy the card that you want. If you really want to be a thrill seeker, more power to you.
Yeah, I think most of the major retailers now do that. DA has those. Steel City has what do they call theirs? Gold Rush. They call theirs Gold Rush, and Blowout has their Mega Mix packs. So like everybody's got something that they make available for that. Even Upper Deck's in the game. That's what those monumental boxes are. It's essentially a repack.
Say that again, Tim. Even go on.
I don't know. Are we
Even
going to lose? I said even Upper Deck's in on the game.
You said even Upper Decks in the game. You said 2 card company names in a row.
Oh, I did say.
You did
I
say
thought I
that.
said in on the game.
Oh,
the game.
no. I
Whatever.
thought you said
Either
even
way.
Upper Decks in the game. And I'm like, what?
Well, doesn't Leaf own in the game now?
They do, yeah.
And Leaf makes repacks, so there you go.
Yeah. So Puck Junk should make repacks. Puck Junk repacks.
Might as well. Everybody else is doing it.
Yeah, what else am I going to do with all those 2021 Upper Deck base cards that I can't get rid of?
Here's what I would do. I would do a repack of what random things are on my desk. So I'll reach over and I'll go, you'll get either this pen, this ComC fidget spinner, or this Lufkin 16-foot tape measure. It'll be one of these 3 things.
That's some good stuff, man. I'm envious.
Or 2 push pins, or a guitar pick. So there you go.
Well, now if you sign the guitar pick, then it has value.
I can't write that small. That's pretty tiny.
I don't know how they do it. All right, let's talk some hockey stuff. So let's talk about the NHL Awards.
Well, let's see. The Calder Trophy was won by Bill Smith, I believe his name was. Oh wait, no, Connor Bedard. Sorry, I misspoke there. I think that came as no surprise to anyone at all. Period. So there's not really much to go off of on that one. Quinn Hughes got the Norris. I didn't hate that pick. I thought that was well deserved. I've seen it gone to more questionable people in the past, but that was all right. The Hart was given to Nathan McKinnon. You can argue that one all you want. I don't know. How do you feel about that one?
I mean, he won the Hart and he won the Ted Lindsay Award. So if the sports writers, the NHL sports writers, vote him to be the most valuable player, and the NHL players voted him to be the most valuable player, well, I guess he's the most valuable player. I mean, the players and the writers agree.
Yeah, but what do writers know? They're just writers. Selke went to Barkov. I'm all right with that one. Did you have a different pick for that?
No, not really. I think this year I didn't obsess too much over the awards. In the past, I mean, even like when I was starting, Puck Junk, way back in like 2007, 2008. I remember like back then, like doing contests, like who do you think is going to win this award and that award, and like doing drawings and stuff, trying to get, just trying to get people to like be engaged with what I was writing or what I was doing. And like, and now I didn't really even know I knew the nominees for the Calder Trophy because of course I wanted to see Connor Bedard win the Calder Trophy. And it was like, as we've talked about before, all the nominees were good. On any other year, Brock Faber would have won, but just not this year. You know what I mean? Just like when you had Crosby and Ovechkin in the same rookie year, only one of them could win. It just happens that way sometimes. It's just how it is. But I liked the awards show. They tried to make it funny. We could talk about that in a minute, but did you have anything you wanted to say about Barkov or McKinnon or Bedard or any of the other winners that were announced?
I mean, I don't know that there were any that I looked at and I was just like, yeah, no, I don't agree with that
Oh, Connor Hellebuck
necessarily.
for Vezina.
Yeah,
Well,
Hellebuck got the Vezina. I mean, you could go back and look at that and be like, okay, he was up against Bob and Demko. So, that's one of those situations where do people look at that? Because the GMs picked that one. So do the GMs look at that and go, well, Demko's been hurt for who knows how long. But here's Bob, who's basically going all the way and taking his team to win a Stanley Cup. But it's supposed to be best goaltender at their position, and I don't know that it takes into consideration postseason. So this would have been like a regular season thing. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess. But I don't know. You can make a case for any of those. So I didn't have really a problem with that. The cultural type awards, I got no skin in that game. So those are what they are. Jacob Slavin won the Lady Bing. Okay. I mean, that was Elias Pettersson and Austin Matthews for his competition there. So gentlemanly conduct and sportsmanship is now what the Bing is for. So prominent players that don't have penalty minutes essentially is what that boils down to. And who else? The Jack Adams Award. That was another one where I was like, I'm okay with it. Rick Tocchet won. But he was up against Rick Bowness and Andrew Burnett. So I kind of feel like that could have gone either way. But I also feel like there were other coaches that probably should have been on that list too.
Yeah, but I mean, they only do 3 nominees, and the three finalists, I mean, they usually have pretty good seasons. So when you say it could have gone either way, I mean, you're right about that. I mean, you're right about that with the goalies, but like just off the top of my head, I was just like, no, it should have been Hellebuck, right? Like when I heard who the nominees were, I'm like, yeah, it should be Connor Hellebuck. He's consistent. I mean, he's great and he's consistently great. So I like I said, I didn't really have a problem with that.
The only award I actually honestly had a problem with, there's only one award that I had a problem with. Just one. And it's one that, in the grand scheme of things, no offense to anyone or the man himself, but the Mark Messier NHL Leadership Award. It's the only award I have a problem with. 2 reasons. Number one, it's determined by Messier, supposedly after he consults with league and team officials. Okay? So if he comes up with a name and goes to the league and team officials and says, yeah, this is who I want to pick for this award, and the league turns around and says, yeah, we're not doing that, what would be the reason for them to not do that? Well, I don't know. It's supposed to go to a player who exemplifies great leadership qualities to not only his team on and off the ice, but who's also supposed to be playing a leading role in their community and help growing the game of hockey and all of that kind of stuff. If that's what this award is for, then the person that they gave it to should probably only be rewarded for the stuff he does for the community, because he is a great ambassador for hockey and a great ambassador for his community, does a lot with charity programs and organizations, and that would be Jacob Trouba. You can have your opinion of him all you want, but from that side of it, he's a great dude. On the ice, questionable. Now, is he a leader of his team? I'm sure, absolutely. He's probably one of the main leadership group members for the Rangers.
He's their team captain, actually.
Team captains aren't always the leader in the locker room. We all know
Yeah,
that.
but when it's someone like Trouba, it usually is. But okay. I mean, all right, I'm
How
just
many
saying.
years did they say it should be in Kreider? And it never was. I mean, I guess that's besides the point. The point is, who is the guy that time and time again, week in and week out, there's always some questionable call of him acting like a jack blank on the ice? It's Jacob Trouba. And like towards the end of the season, wasn't he one that launched himself like a projectile and tried to kill someone? I mean, come on. And yet, this guy exemplifies leadership. Okay, fine. I don't think one singular player, the ex-player, I should say, should get an award named after him and also get to choose the award. That would be like Jack Adams coming back and saying, I'm only picking my Jack Adams award. Or King Clancy coming back from the dead. I'm only picking the King Clancy award.
Listen, there can never be enough humanitarian work, and I guess it's nice to recognize people for doing good in their community and doing good for others. But at the same time, it's like got the Mark Messier Award, you got the Willie O'Ree Award, which I understand is for growing the game of hockey, and I think that's a great award. You got the King Clancy Award. I feel like there's so much of that already, and that's okay. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the Messier Award. I think it seemed to me a little egotistical. Look, the Rocket Richard Trophy that was donated after he had passed away, right? It wasn't like, or yeah, I think he had passed away by then, so it was not like, hey, I'm going to make this award named in my honor and give it to someone that I like, right? But that's kind of like the vibe I always got from the Messier Award. So I don't really care about that one too much. And it's not even like it's a major award, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's not like one of the big ones. It's kind of one of those ancillary awards that are kind of like not, the second string awards. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Messier, even though I think his award is kind of dumb. But like, an award is an award. Don't get me wrong.
Right. Yeah, if you win an award, it's great. You've obviously showed something that exemplifies your prowess in whatever it is that award is honoring. And I'm not taking anything away. That's why I prefaced that by saying, look, for what Trouba does for the community and everything else, it's outstanding. Look at the guy's resume outside of hockey. I mean, it's nuts. I mean, it's crazy. As much as he gives back, and I applaud him for that. That's great. But then you see the guy on the ice, and you're just like, wait, that can't be the same guy, is it? And sure enough, it is. So that's the only one that really bugged me.
Isn't that true though of like most hockey players or like the ones, especially the ones that are like that kind of have a rep or are tough as nails on the ice or kind of mean or agitators or whatever, but then everybody's like, yeah, off the ice he's like the nicest guy. That's been said about a lot of players, you know what I mean? Like especially like enforcers, like, oh, off the ice they're just such a great person, and I believe it, it's sometimes work is work. And I'm not trying to make excuses, I'm just saying. But the ceremony. So you said you couldn't catch the ceremony.
Yeah, I like went to turn it on. I thought it was supposed to be on at like 7:00 or something.
6 o'clock.
And I went,
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. Yeah.
yeah, but even when I went to turn it on when I got home from work, I couldn't find it anywhere. It wasn't on the guide. I even like have one of them fancy remotes that you talk into, and I was like NHL Awards, and up popped a bunch of clips that were on ESPN Plus from it. So I'm like, oh, it must have already been on. I'm like, well, that's weird, because I'm thinking it was supposed to be. I thought it was in Vegas. They're 2 hours behind me. How would this be at 3:00 in the afternoon? That's dumb. But then I gave up on trying to find it, and I don't know. I saw something shiny and got distracted and went and did something else, I think. So I did watch clips afterward.
So I caught it while it was happening. I made a point to watch it. I watched it from the beginning. I was able to pay like 90% attention to it. I was kind of like helping somebody with something. I was helping my aunt with something. She got a puppy. So we had to like assemble a cage. So we're like doing that and watching the awards. You'd be like, oh, wait, hang on. Let me back this up, right? Because what it was basically was it was hosted by this stand-up comic named Matt Friend. I've never heard of him. He's from Chicago, so I feel kind of ashamed that I never heard of him because I'm from Chicago and I'm studying stand-up comedy. As he said in the at the beginning of the show, he goes, if you haven't heard of me, that's okay. The NHL hired me to do this because it was for next to nothing, and everybody, and some people laughed. He said, and next to nothing Canadian, which is even less than next to nothing American, you know what I mean? And the very start of the show, it had him impersonating different people. Like there was like a part where he had on a wig and he was like doing a Donald Trump impersonation, and he's way too young to play Trump. But his voice, and he was just like, I forgot, he was just like, oh, that pathetic NHL and it's stupid, whatever, right? And he just sounded like Trump, like just ripping on very sad, this league and their little trophies, And then he had like another thing where he was like pretending to be Gary Bettman, and then he had another one where he was pretending to be Jeff Goldblum, right? So that was like edited together at the beginning, like, and then even like pretending to be Connor McDavid. So, there was like some scripted stuff at the beginning. Then he came out and he did stand up. And the problem was that nobody was laughing. And it wasn't because he wasn't funny. He was funny. It was because nobody came there to laugh. I've heard people refer to the NFL, the National Football League, as the no fun league. I'm about ready to call the NHL the no humor league because nobody laughed. Even if it's kind of funny or a little funny, or you see that the guy's trying to be funny, you laugh a little bit maybe, but it's like nobody came there to be fun. It's almost like they wanted to get it over with and go hit those slot machines and try to get some junk slabs for $50 in the hotel lobby or whatever. Because he even had this joke. Okay, you've heard about the woman who flashed her breasts at the Oilers game, right?
Heard, seen, watched interviews with.
It was all over the internet for like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So he made a joke about her and said that, well, if she wants to work in the adult entertainment industry, we know someone who could help her with that, or something like that. And then there's like no laughter. And then he says, oh, well, they were supposed to cut to a shot of Austin Matthews. And then the camera cut to Austin Matthews sitting like this, looking all bored, like cracking like a half smile with his receding hairline and that little porn stash of his. So if he had told the punchline and it cut to his picture, it would have been funny. But it was like he would tell a joke and then nobody would laugh. And then he'd say, they were supposed to cut to this, right? So there was definitely some problem where the screen behind him wasn't showing the thing that he was referencing. And that was a horrible thing to do to the comic, right? Because these jokes, I'm sure, were agreed upon by him and somebody, right? If he says, okay, and this is where we cut to Austin Matthews, right? And if they say, oh, no, we can't do that. All right, then I'll come up with a different joke. So he was funny, but nobody wanted to laugh. Nobody wanted to have a good time. Everybody just wanted to GTFO.
Yeah, and some of the clips that I saw, I mean, they were little interactions that went on, and the Kucherov one was painful to watch. He was having no part of any of it. And even I don't know who the guy was that was talking to him, but it even got to the point where it was just like, okay, then moving on.
He made a really funny joke that I cracked up when he said that, because he said something like, I forgot what it was, but he said he looks about as excited as Nikita Kucherov at the NHL skills competition.
Yeah,
I like fell over laughing. I'm like, oh my God, this guy understands the material. I mean, he's a hockey fan. So that was funny. And then he came up to Connor Bedard and he said, hey, I got something for you. It's my fake ID, right?
Yeah, the fake ID thing with Bedard was kind of funny. But even that, the first half of the whole thing, Bedard's just staring daggers at this guy. Like, come on, dude. You've got to be in on this joke.
Have a sense of humor, for Christ's sakes. Yeah. Have a sense of humor. Have fun. You know what? You're playing hockey. I know it's a job and I know it's work, but we enjoy watching it. It's fun. It's fun for us to watch. I imagine it's fun for the players to play, or they wouldn't play it. And now you're getting kudos, you're getting props, you're getting awards, you're getting praise at the end of the year, and it's supposed, this wasn't the Tom Brady roast, okay? So I mean, Connor Bedard can lighten up a little bit. Austin Matthews can lighten up a little bit. Everybody can lighten up a little bit. They need to hang out with Charles Barkley a little bit more. That's a guy who can give a joke and take a joke.
Do you think, and I thought about this too, the more clips I saw where it was just like, these guys don't want to be there. They don't want to laugh. Jokes that are funny, they're not laughing at. Nothing they're laughing at. Like poking fun or, making light of stuff. Just nothing. Do you think we're at that point where we've crossed over the societal point to where all of the hockey players now are just like, they're in that whole thing? Like, we can't laugh at ourselves, so we're not going to laugh at anything.
Oh, wait, that reminds me of a really good joke. He said, the comic said, Connor Bedard is the first Generation Z player to win a trophy besides a participation trophy.
And see, that's a funny joke
That was a funny joke,
because it fits.
and hardly anybody laughed at it. And I was
Right.
dying. I was just like, oh my God.
Because it's a funny joke that all of us got and we laugh at it because it's hilarious, and they all got their feelings hurt.
So wait, what was your question? Are we done with the award ceremonies, or are we done? What was your question again?
No, I mean, are we at the point where people just don't want to laugh? They just can't laugh anymore. They can't
No.
poke fun at themselves. They can't look in the mirror and laugh at themselves because everybody's feelings are hurt, or they feel like somebody else's feelings are hurt. And I just feel like we've gotten to that point, and it's like, these are award shows. Yeah, you won an award, but come on. We all know that nobody wants to be there, but you know what? Just be there. Laugh it up, yuck it up, have a good time. What the heck? I don't get it.
No disrespect to the comic, but maybe if it was somebody a little more well known or well liked by the hockey community. By well liked, I just mean like maybe just well known. Who was the guy who was in the All-Star game? One of the celebrity captains, the comic?
Will Arnett?
Will Arnett. Yeah, see, someone like him would be great.
Funny you bring him up because the guy that hosted the show, he does a great Will Arnett impression.
Okay.
Like a really good one. He did it on NHL Network Radio like the day before when he was on. He was doing some of his impressions. He did that one. He didn't do Connor McDavid. He said he was going to, but he didn't do it. He did Bettman, though, which was pretty funny. That was pretty funny.
So I guess here's the problem. It was on at an early time. I mean, an hour's fine. How much time do you need?
That was good. I'm glad it wasn't a marathon show.
I keep referring back to the 97 NHL Awards because I recorded that, but it was great because it was hosted by Ron McLean, but it had comedy skits interjected that were pre-recorded. And then it was funny. It was like lighthearted, you know what I mean? And it was like when you have an award show and you're just applause and everyone's dressed nice and it's kind of boring, right? I mean, look at the Oscars. The Oscars, I don't like watching the Oscars. I like movies. I like a lot of the actors, but I'm just not excited about it. It's not interesting. It doesn't hold my interest. I don't care. Nothing happens funny. I guess Chris Rock getting slapped, that's kind of a big deal. But like when you have somebody really funny hosting the Oscars, what are they doing? They're ripping on the people in the audience. They're ripping on the actors and the directors. And you know what? They're laughing because they get it. It's entertainment. It's fun. They're at the top of their profession. They're having a good time. They're getting ripped on a little bit. It's all in good fun. The NHL players, they just don't care. I'm surprised they all weren't playing with their phones.
Yeah.
Maybe they had to put them in a bag.
I actually feel like a directive probably went out to specifically tell them, you will be on camera at some point. Do not be on your phone.
Right.
They had to have, because that's the world we live in. Everybody's on the phone. Like all the time. Constantly. Looking at their social media, checking stuff. Hey, you bring up the 97. Was that the one that had the little skit about the where they had the Wayne Gretzky hockey table, but it was Martin Brodeur versus Ron Hextall?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yes. And a 10-year-old Drake is in that skit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The one kid? That's Drake?
He's got like big curly hair and like thick glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't either when I posted it on YouTube, and then like one day it got like a ton of comments and a ton of traffic, and I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't know that was a 10-year-old Drake. I mean, how would I have known? So the Sphere in Vegas is a cool setting.
Now that was cool.
It looks awesome. And I have a friend who's a sports writer. He was there for the draft. And I texted him. I said, how do you not go blind in there? Because it's like you're in this giant dome that's just lit up with color and lights and everything. And he says, you know what? He says it's really like not super bright. It's like nice, like it doesn't hurt my eyes. It's just they figured it out, like how not to make it too bright, and but I loved like watching the draft when they would have like, like the draft board that would show the names and stuff, or they'd show like highlights or team logos or players or whatever on like the Sphere. I mean, it was cool. It was like a like an IMAX screen, but like way cooler. And I'll tell you this, I actually enjoyed the draft. I make fun of the draft for being long and boring, and you know what? They are long. The first round, they take their sweet time. They take 3 hours for the first round. And then the next day, it's just like, okay, rounds what, 2 through, what did they do, 7? I enjoyed it. And I think one of the reasons why I enjoyed it was because they had a lot of different people hosting it. So you weren't listening to one person talking most of the time, or two or three people. They were kind of, oh, and now we're going to talk to Macklin Celebrini, and now we're going to, oh, and now over here, and okay, oh, and it looks like the Flyers are making a trade, and oh, what have you heard about that? Right. And it was just like, it kept going, and it's like, oh, here's Bettman with the trade announcement, right? So I was as entertained as I could be for an NHL entry draft. And I've watched my fair share of drafts. I mean, actually, I watched my first draft in '89. That was the year I got into hockey. And you know what the history that was made at that draft in '89? Well, there's probably a few pieces of history, but
Try me.
first overall pick was
In 89?
yeah.
God, I can't think. Yeah, it's gone. It's a fleeting thought. It's just gone.
Do you want a hint?
Sure.
Drafted by the Nordiques.
Oh, Sundin.
Matt Sundin, and he was the first European to be picked first overall.
I know who went fifth in that draft.
Who went fifth in that draft?
One of my PC players.
And who was that?
That was Bill Guerin.
Oh, really? Guerin went fifth, huh?
He's drafted by the Devils.
Nice. Yeah. So anyway, did you watch any of the draft coverage, and what did you think?
I did watch. I think I watched more the day after than I did the day of, just because, again, I got bogged down by, things that aren't hockey related, like life and other things. So I didn't have the time to sit there and devote and just watch. But I did see a lot of the craziness that went on. The amount of trades and pick shuffling that were going down. But I'm still, even right now, I'm still shocked that the Ducks took Beckett Sedecki with the third pick.
You know who else was shocked?
Beckett, yeah. I mean, that's like the video for the ages, yeah. No one was more shocked than he was.
The Ducks drafted this kid third overall, and it cut to him, and he looked surprised, to say the least, because he wasn't ranked at third overall. There were some other players that seemed like more obvious choices to be taken with the third overall pick.
He was a fringe top 10 guy, if that. The fact that he went third. I mean, good for him. That's the thing. I mean, great for him. But what a weird pick for the Ducks to make at that point.
Yeah, but Pat Verbeek's their GM.
What are we saying? He's incapable of making a rational decision at that
No,
point?
well, it seems like no, he makes some very unorthodox picks, and that's interesting. Is that he's becoming like that GM where like you think, okay, this is the guy he's going to take, but then he takes someone else, and you're like, what?
I mean, here's the thing. Is he a risky pick? Absolutely. A fringe top 10 pick?
He didn't draft Fantilli last year. Didn't the Ducks have the second overall pick? They took Carlson.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They have a ton of young talent on that team. So throwing this guy in, yeah, he's an exciting player, but good lord, that's like way higher than he should have gone. As seen by his reaction, and also if you can read lips, because as you could see when he stood up, he turns and looks. I guess that was his parents that were standing next to him. He turns and looks, and he mouths exactly what you think he mouthed. He was just like, "What? Like, what is happening right now?" And that's literally how that went down. So check out the video if you haven't actually seen it. It was pretty good. But the other thing that kind of surprised me, I think everybody thought for sure Calgary was going to take Tijigila, and they didn't, or at least put themselves in the position to be able to. And Utah gets them, of all places. Utah. So that'll be interesting to see. Obviously the Sharks with Celebrini, it's a great pick. Number one guy. They've got Will Smith too. That'll be another year more mature. So I still think they're quite a bit. What's the right word? Quite a bit away from playoff hockey.
Yes.
At least being in the West that they're in. They need a lot more help than just that. But I think if you're a Sharks fan, that's kind of exciting to get those guys. I always look, obviously, for the Penguins, right? Penguins didn't have a first-round pick. They traded it away back when good old Erik Karlsson joined the club. So they didn't get the pick until later rounds. So I actually saw their picks and was looking up a couple of the guys. I had heard of one of them, but not the other ones. I think the Canadians did well. They had a ton of picks. They went all. They could have messed them up, but I think they did well with what they did. Still kind of puzzled what the Senators did overall. What was their whole. I don't even know what their draft strategy was. Again, that's why I sit here as a sidekick on a podcast and I'm not a GM of a team or a scout.
Sidekick,
So,
don't give yourself enough credit, man. This is not Batman and Robin. This is like the Justice League. With you and Clemente and sometimes Jim Howard and Blake when we used to have them on, it's like more like the Justice League.
if this was the Justice League, I would be the janitor. I don't know what my name would be if I had a superpower.
Mop Man.
Go Gadget Mop.
Yeah, Mop Man.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I think the draft was good. The thing that I'm not happy about, because it was so cool and over the top and just had so much visual eye candy for everyone and was put on, I think, really well from a production standpoint. The fact that this is it's kind of disheartening because next year the format changes and we're not going to have this pageantry and this whole production and all of that. It's going to be more like all the other sports where none of the team's executives are going to be a part of the on-site, and they'll just have the draft picks available there to go up and talk and do the interviews and things like that. So everything will be done from war rooms and whatever locale that the teams are in. Batman claims that this is what all the teams have asked for, but considering that production level, I don't know why anybody would ask for that. I guess they've never seen it before, so this was the first time. Maybe many of them, if they got the vote again, would change their minds. But it's a different world we live in since COVID. It's hard to get all these people all in one place at one time. Everybody's all over the place. They're in different locales. Everybody that wants to be participating and the teams that want participated are all the scouts and, the various executives at the different levels. And most of the time, it's just not feasible for them all to be in the same place at once. So that's why they're doing it.
Right. I'm sure back in 89 or whatever, they sent way less people to the draft. And now it's kind of like they send everybody.
Yeah.
And then they even send people who really don't need to be there. Like when they're like, oh, and here is a former player announcing our draft pick or whatever. Oh, did you see Celine Dion announcing a draft pick?
Yeah. She did the Canadians. I think it was the Canadians' first pick of the first round.
Yeah, it was funny because like the Canadian GM or whatever comes up and everybody starts booing, and then he introduced Celine Dion, and everybody all of a sudden starts cheering. Right? At least they had enough class.
Yeah.
Can't boo her ever, never, ever.
People were like, "How'd you land Celine Dion?" I'm like, "She lives right down the street."
Yeah, I mean,
It's not like she had to go far.
Right. I'm remembering hearing this on an episode of Spitting Chicklets. They talked about that, and they talked about how the teams spend a lot of money to fly everybody in, and then they got to fly them out again. And then it's like usually like it just like the timing is bad with the awards and then the draft, and so it kind of made sense to have them both in the same spot because they even talked about how a lot of the brass would be at the awards, and then now they got to go to the draft, right? And so they're going from one city to another city. I mean, they should just do it in Vegas every year. I mean, if they keep doing it like that, they should just do it in Vegas every year.
That's the thing. Now there's no need for a venue like that. So if everything's gone virtual,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and
So
that's too bad. Never say never. They might try it for a couple of years. I think the thing is that like if the NHL wants people to think that it's a big deal, then they got to act like they're a big deal. You know what I mean? Like that's
for
like
sure.
part of confidence, right? Like you got to think you're a big deal if you want other people to think you're a big deal, right? So if the NHL is just like, no, we're just gonna, okay, yeah, we'll have our award show at 3 p.m. So we at 3 p.m. on a Thursday, so that everybody can make it to their supper club in time or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's just like that's lame, right? Or well, we'll just do the draft. We'll just make the draft a Zoom meeting, so that we don't like inconvenience anybody. And I get it, but it's like, then you look at the opposite, right? When you run completely in the opposite direction, then you have the Super Bowl, the NFL Super Bowl. That is like the complete opposite of like the direction that the NHL is going, right? Where everything has to be like nuts, over the top, ridiculous, opulent, just overwhelming. All of those adjectives at once. And unnecessary. I should add that too. Do we really need a 40-minute halftime show? Do we? Do we really care that the halftime show cost $10 million?
Well, the NHL was generating more revenue than most small countries like the NFL does. They could probably pull off stuff like that.
True.
They would have Nickelback perform at every event.
Don't they? I thought Nickelback was the official rock band of the National Hockey League.
They probably could be.
They could be, yeah. I actually liked their cover of, what is it, Saturday Nights for Fighting. Oh, they play that before
Saturday Night's all right for fighting, yeah.
Yeah, they play that before Hockey Night in Canada, and I loved that. And it was the Nickelback version, and I didn't even know that it was an Elton John song. But then I heard it, and I go, wow, this is terrible. I like the Nickelback version better. Hashtag covers better than the original.
I don't know what's more disheartening on that. The fact that you didn't know it was a cover or the fact that you didn't like the original. But I digress.
Well, maybe I just need to hear the whole thing. No, dude, come on. You're a musician, so you would know that, like, oh, that was a cover, right?
I mean, that's music I grew up on. So.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's like a lot of songs that I heard and I go, I really like this song. And then, like, later on, I find out that it was a cover and I feel a little duped, but then I seek out the original version and I like it better. Sometimes I don't. Just depends who did it.
At least it pushes you in the direction of self-discovery when it comes to the music. So that's good. At least it's accomplishing that.
So anyway, let's talk about free agency. A lot went down on Monday. I actually got to watch Free Agent Feeding Frenzy because thank God it was on ESPN Plus. I'm so tired of stuff being on the NHL network, because if I want to watch the NHL network, I got to spend an extra $20 to upgrade my cable package, but I already had to pay an extra $25 just to get my local regional sports package so that I could watch the Blackhawk games. So it's like I'm already paying $25 more than I want to. Now I'd have to pay another 20. So that's why I don't get an NHL network, but I'm bitter about it because like a lot of times I'd want to watch the Rangers. Oh, the Rangers and the Bruins are playing at 6 on a Tuesday night. Oh, it's only on NHL network. And then that was just like a total buzzkill. So I was expecting my buzz to be killed, but actually it was streamed on the Plus. So I not only did they
We're opposite in that, by the way,
oh yeah, how so?
because I have NHL Network, and I'd much rather watch NHL coverage than ESPN's coverage of anything anymore, especially the way they handled the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yes.
But that's
However,
another story.
ESPN's only like $11 or $12 a month. And
And I get it because of the Disney package. So
right, yeah. And so like I'd have to pay I'm already paying for enough stuff, right? And
yeah.
I look at like the super premium direct TV package and I go, the only channel I want is NHL Network. It doesn't make sense to pay $20 for one channel. Like,
Yeah.
you know, for that channel, you know what I mean? Because I'm going to be watching ESPN Plus most of the time. You know what? Actually, when I subscribed, I'm glad I did. I used to do Center Ice. I was happy with that. Then pretty much everything went to ESPN Plus. I don't even see Center Ice promoted anymore. I don't even know if it's a thing. I know there was a year where they were both like around at the same time. But I enjoyed the coverage. It was by TSN. I just want to run down a few of these big signings. I'm not going to talk about every single one, but obviously, I think the biggest one was Steven Stamkos signing with the Nashville Predators. Wow.
Yeah, what's up with that?
And then Jonathan Marchessault also signing with the Nashville Predators, but then the Tampa Bay Lightning signing Jake Guentzel. And then you had Sam Reinhart re-sign in Florida for like a giant deal. And then you had a lot of other, I don't know, say like mid-range players, but you know, like kind of like middle of the pack kind of guys just kind of move around, which kind of seems the way it is now, right? Like, oh, backup goalie went from this team to that team. Okay, great. Oh, okay, third line winger went from this team to that team, right? And the Blackhawks signed a lot of players. I'm actually surprised how many players they signed on Monday on the first day of the free agency. Oh, and also interesting footnote, Patrick Kane re-signed with the Red Wings. You know, did it on the day before he officially became a free agent. So that's kind of interesting that he decided to stick around another year. I think that's a good choice for him. But you didn't get to watch this. I was like texting you the updates as they were happening.
Yeah, I mean, I was working most of the day, but I picked up after a while and kind of got caught up on what was going on. So I mean, honestly, you know, you bring up Stamkos and you bring up Marchessault signing with the Predators. I mean, they also signed Brady Shea to a $7 million contract. They re-upped UC Saros for 8 years and locked him down. So Barry Trotz is going for it. Like he's going all in. As big as he can build this team on what money he has, it looks like he's going for it. And kudos to him for trying to set that up. Just like you say with the Blackhawks, you know, vested interest thing is me being a Penguins fan. That's brutal. It's brutal to look back on it. I know it's only day one, and you really look at that, but it's when everybody's doing and making all these moves, and you're just like, why are you just sitting there doing nothing? And then all of a sudden you see something pop up on the screen. It's like the Penguins signed Mac Hollowell. And you're like, are you serious right now? And then, oh, they re-signed Brian Shea. Cool. Oh, and we signed Anthony Beauvillier. Great. If this was 8 years ago.
Are you kidding me? Anthony Beauvillier?
Yeah. Like I said, if this was 8 years ago, I'd be all on board with that.
Wait, he just signed with the Penguins.
Yes.
He played for 3 teams in 23-24.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's crazy. Dude's been bouncing around.
Since 22-23, this will be his 5th franchise.
5th team, yeah. Dude was like great with the Islanders, and he just hasn't been able to catch on since then.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If this was Islanders Beauvillier, I'd be excited. But the last 3.5 years, it's been I don't know who this guy is. Like, he's definitely not like he used to be. And then the big splash, if you want to call it that,
Mm-hmm.
the Penguins signed. I'm going to butcher his name. I know I'm going to, but Bokanji Imama they signed.
Hmm.
So got the big man with some grit. Maybe can finally get a player that can throw down and box some people. I don't know if he's going to stick, but I mean, you look at all these moves that Kyle Dubas made, almost every single one of, with a couple exceptions, they're at league minimum. They're all league minimum contracts. And I know what
Mm-hmm.
he's doing. He's trying to stock Wilkes-Barre. If you stock enough players down at Wilkes-Barre that creates competition, it's going to float to the top, right? And you're going to have guys that you can call up and bring up to the big club. So, if that's the goal, great. If it works, that's a different story. I'm still waiting for them to sign Crosby to an extension. I know his contract isn't up until next year, but the last thing we want is the Stamkos situation in Pittsburgh. Because I'm sorry, Stamkos should have been a Lightning till he retired.
I agree.
And I get it. It's a business. I don't care about the business in that case. That's a player that's been your face of the franchise forever. So how you let them go. And I know it happens in other sports sometimes too, but so much so in hockey. You see team captains traded a lot. Way more than I feel like they should be. It's like if you felt this guy worthy enough to be your team captain, and like as we were saying earlier, arguably your number one leader on your team, what's that say to your team that you're just willing to let this guy go and let him move? And I know it was money. I know they were really far apart in the terms of the contract and the money being offered and all of that kind of stuff. I get it. Again, at the end of the day, it's a business decision. But wow, that hurts. That really hurts.
Well, sometimes when a team captain gets traded, it's basically the team saying, all right, we're starting over. We need a new identity, right? Like our identity isn't working. Sometimes it's just a financial thing. As far as Stamkos goes, I mean, yeah, he should have been a Lightning for life. And I think about like times in his career where maybe he could have gone to another team. Now, I can't quite think of example. Like, I don't know his contract history, but I mean, here's the thing. Tampa Bay looked a little lean for a while. They were not a great team, and then they got good. There was that year. I mean, they were good. Then they became contenders. There was a year where they lost to the Blackhawks, but they were on the rise. They just weren't ready for prime time. And then, of course, the back-to-back cups. But the thing is that like he didn't ever say, you know what, I like what they're doing in Pittsburgh. Trade me there, or trade me to Toronto, or oh, I'm going to sign with this team, or oh, I'm going to sign an offer sheet, or whatever. Right? Like he was loyal to the franchise, and the team succeeded because he stayed in Tampa Bay. It wasn't like a situation where it was like, okay, he's 10% of the player that he used to be, and we can't keep him. Like he's not going to help the team, or he's costing us too much money. It was like he was still a superstar player. I mean, he put up 40 goals. That's
Yeah.
not easy to do.
That's the thing. He's not past his prime by any means. He's still putting up the numbers.
They should have made it work. They should have made it work. I mean, and that's the thing is that like, and then even hearing like the commentators say, well, but it is a business after all. And it's like, yeah, but you know what else is part of the business? Fan support, because fans buy jerseys. Now, I'm not saying, oh, you need to have a player who is hurting your team because he's going to sell jerseys. Because guess what? If he's hurting the team, he ain't going to be selling jerseys, right? But there's a reason why fan favorites are called fan favorites, because people like them. I mean, you could probably think of a lot of players then or now on your favorite team where people wear their jersey and you go, you know what? He's just an average player, or he's a pretty good player. But, and I'm not even talking about like a Stamkos or a Crosby. I'm just saying a fan favorite. But then, of course, the superstars are fan favorites too. And yes, absolutely, Stamkos should have been in Tampa Bay for his whole career. They should have made it work, even if it was just like a couple years. I don't know what terms they were talking about or not talking about. It seems more like it was a dollar amount than a term amount, but there's going to be too many hockey cards with players in the wrong uniforms, in October.
To your point, you were saying where you weren't sure about his contract history. If you remember back when he was an RFA the last time around, that was back in 2011.
Yes.
And there was the whole sweepstakes of who's going to get Stamkos. And, the Flyers and the Canadiens were both teams that were rumored to be going to throw out an offer sheet for him. And, he ended up signing in Tampa Bay anyway, so it was much ado about nothing. And then they all came out afterward and they're like, yeah, this was never going to happen. It just took some time and we had to, hatch out some details on it. But I was never going to go anywhere and I'm staying here in Tampa. Well, that obviously wasn't the case this time. So, I wish him well in Nashville. And like I said, Barry Trotz is no dummy. He knows what he's doing. And in his first go around of taking over for David Poile in this whole, or I should call him new Hockey Hall of Famer David Poile.
Yes.
Taking over that position, those are no small shoes to fill. But he's making a splash right out of the bat. So, seeing some of the moves that were made and seeing some of the the bigger signings, it's funny because anytime there's these free, as they call it, free agent frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
The first day is generally where all the big guys go, and rarely is it the next day, the day after that, something big happens because there's really nothing big left. And I saw I was probably around like 6:00 when I was looking at this, which Cap Friendly's going away too, obviously, since the Washington Capitals bought it.
Yeah.
And now own it. So I'm sure there's going to be 20 different clones that pop up and try to take its place. But this is at least the last go around with it. But I looked at the top 10 available free agents that are out there right now. Here's how it's dwindled down. The number one free agent on the list is Joe Pavelski, and he already basically said he's going to retire. So he hasn't officially said it, but he basically said he was not planning on coming back next year. So when the number one free agent available is a guy that's essentially sitting on his back porch in his rocking chair with his Bartles and James watching the sunset, that was a reference for people that most maybe our listeners won't understand. But anyway, that tells you something. I was going to say Adam Henrique was still out there, but last I looked, the Oilers signed him to like a 2-year. But then beyond that, it's like Daniel Sprong, James Van Riemsdyk, Jack Roslovic, Justin Schultz, Kevin Shattenkirk. I mean, these aren't necessarily household names by any means. To hockey fans, people are aware of them, but this is a lot of players that have kind of bounced around from team to team for the last few years. So it's not like there's mega superstars left out there. So if anybody's going to make a splash, it's going to have to be a big trade.
What about Toronto signing Oliver Ekman-Larsson?
I mean, that's good for them, obviously, because what's the one criticism that everybody always has of Toronto, and we've had on this show year in and year out for who knows how long?
Their defense.
They have no back end. Doesn't matter what they do every year.
They signed Chris Tanev and Oliver Ekman-Larsson.
The Tanev signing, that's a good pick. I think that was a good pick.
Well, Ekman-Larsson played well for Florida.
Oh, OEL's, I mean, he's a great, solid player. I think he's somewhat underrated. He spent all that time out in the desert, so he kind of gets ignored sometimes. But yeah, the Tanev signing, I think that was pretty good signing. They also got Yanni Hakanpää.
Hakanpää, yeah.
Yeah, he was banged up a little bit towards the end of the year. I think he missed some playoff games too, but I mean, he's a decent player. He's just getting up there in age. I think he's 32, so they got him for like $1.3 million, so it wasn't that They didn't have to give up a lot money-wise to get him. It was interesting that they re-signed Matt Murray and gave Anthony Stolarz a contract. That I found interesting because they had just extended Wool to a 3-year. So now they got 3 goaltenders that they signed basically in a day.
Who's the other one? They got Stolarz, they got Wool, and
They signed Matt Murray.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, to a 1-year.
That's right. Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot that he's on the Leafs now. We're talking
Yeah.
about the Matt Murray, not the other Matt Murray.
Yeah, we're talking about the 2-time Stanley Cup champion Matt Murray. Yes.
Yes, not the Dallas Star goaltender who is also named Matt Murray.
Yeah, he went somewhere else actually. But yeah, no, they gave him another year. So
They gave him wow, that's quite a logjam in Toronto.
yeah,
because Woll is supposed to be like their goalie of the future.
they just need him to help. They just need help. That's all. They just need help back there. I mean, nobody in this day and age of this NHL, the way games are played and the way the game is played overall, you can't expect goaltenders to play 70 games in a season. You need somebody to take some of that weight off.
Which is actually why I liked what they did in Boston last year with the goaltending tandem of Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. And of course, Ullmark was traded to the Ottawa Senators.
Which is crazy to me. But
I get it. Well, no, I mean, the thing is like, do you tie up all that salary? I don't even know what they were making, but I guess the thing is like, is it better to have 2 number 1 goalies, or do you trade one of those goalies and get like scoring help? Because I mean, they needed more scoring. Obviously, the Bruins did. You know what I mean? So it's like if you have 2 great goalies, you can only play one of them. But you could play 12 forwards in a game or even more. You could suit up 13 forwards if you want, right? Not that you're going to have 13 all-star forwards, right? But like, is it better to have another good forward? I mean, this is more of a philosophical thing. I'm not really trying to dissect that trade, but I like the 2 goalie tandem. I think it should be like that. Look, why are there, what does a baseball team have? How many starting pitchers? 5 in a rotation?
depends on the team, but yeah.
5 to 7, right?
Roughly.
Yeah, okay. So the thing is that, and I get that pitching's a different thing. It's hard on the shoulder, the arm, blah, 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 whatever, right? And I get that, like, you wouldn't want to have 7 different goaltenders, right? Because goalies need to play enough to be sharp, right? They need to get enough action to be sharp, game ready, whatever, right? You can't have them not play for 7 games and then put them in and expect them to do well. So I like the tandem idea, though, because you look at how many goalies just get hurt now.
Well, there's that. Somebody's sitting there on IR like a lot. And it was like that this year, I think way more than I can remember a time where that many goaltenders were getting banged up.
And how it was explained to me, and I'll try to explain this the best way I can, it's because the way goalies are falling down and flaring their legs out in that butterfly position, it's not a natural motion, not a natural pose for the human body. So that's causing stress on the hips, and that's leading to injuries. I mean, we could probably think of a half a dozen goalies off the top of our head that have had some sort of hip injury, hip surgery, or hip issue. So they're getting hurt. So, yeah, you're playing them in 70 games, they're going to get hurt. But I get it. You go, well, we're paying this goalie $8 million a year. We want to get our money's worth. But it's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean you should pay him more. You know what I mean? Like, the golden goose can only lay 1 golden egg a day, right? If you try to make it lay two eggs a day, it's going to die.
Yeah, and I absolutely get that. I guess I was more surprised, not so much that he was dealt, but what they got in return.
Right.
Korpisalo? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you get a first-round pick next year, but that's next year. And the fact that you're getting a goaltender that's just won the Vezina Trophy, like a year removed from that, is your star. I mean, essentially, if Swayman's an all-star, you're an all-star alternate,
Right.
I mean, it's not goalie 1, goalie 2. It's 1A, 1B. And plus, who's Jeremy Swayman going to hug now? I mean, what are we going to do? Is he going to hug Korpisalo? Corpusala probably doesn't want to get one hugged. He's probably one of those germaphobes that doesn't like touching. I mean, I don't know that he is. He might be. But yeah, I just thought that's not a good deal, especially considering Corpusala's track record the last couple of years. So
Yeah, not so good. Oh, actually, I will say this really quick. The NHL Free Agency show on TSN, they did two things that were fun. They did their version of Plinko, like from The Price is Right, where they would like drop a disc down and it would land in like a different like $1, $5, $10, whatever. But it was like basically guessing where the player would end up. And so they'd have like the different teams that were rumored or that were talking to those players or their agents or whatever, or where they thought they were going to go sign with. But then in the middle, it was always a Canadian flag, like, or a Canadian team, like, oh, Stamkos might sign. Let's see, we got the Predators, we got the Golden Knights, we got Wild Card. But then in the middle, it was like Canada, like just any Canadian team, we guess. I don't know. So that was cute. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that. The only Plinko like game I saw was the one Upper Deck had at the awards outside in the little fan booth.
Yeah,
Where you drop the puck down and you win something.
no, but this Plinko board was so tall, they actually had like a staircase that went up to the back of it.
So it was like Price is Right.
It was a Price is Right scaled Plinko board, but they called it just like hockey puck. Like they didn't even call it Pucko or something. That would have been funny. It was just like, they're like, yeah, we don't want to get sued by the Price is Right. Ha ha ha. Right. But whatever. So that was funny. The other thing that they did is, you've heard of the dating app Tinder. They did like a joke with that, but they called it Tender. And they were like showing different goalies, and it was like swipe right, swipe left. Like, no, he's not going to re-sign with this team. Swipe left. Oh yeah, he's going to re-sign. Swipe right. I like this goalie. Swipe right. No, this guy swipe. And it was funny because they were like cycling through the different goalies who were like free agents. It was amusing. I mean, they put some thought into it. It was funny.
There were, like I said, there were a lot of goaltenders that popped up today and were dealt or signed by one team or another. So there's a lot. Latest one being Samsonov. He signed in Vegas. That happened a little earlier. So
I like that. I like that move.
yeah, especially considering they got him for 1.8.
I guess that's why they dealt
Logan Thompson.
thank you, Logan Thompson.
Yeah.
Which I was surprised that they dealt him.
Yeah, they had Thompson and Aiden Hill. So
I guess I could take or leave Aiden Hill, even though he did really great in the Stanley Cup final last year. But yeah, I like Samsonov going to the Knights. I think that's a good fit. I think he just needed a better team in front of him, and I hopefully that's the team that he needs. He looked like he was going to be a really great goalie in the league, and then he's just not so good lately, last couple of years.
well, like you said, it's going to be interesting next year or this coming season for hockey cards. At least not the initial releases, because those, of course, will still have the old jerseys. But once we hit the mid-season and the later season releases, we'll see the new digs.
Yeah,
You'll get to finally have the Laurent Brossoit card you've always wanted in a Blackhawks jersey.
I still don't have that many Marc-Andre Fleury as a Blackhawk cards. Unfortunately, he was traded at the trade deadline, so he played like 3/4 of the season with the Blackhawks. So it's so weird when I do find a Flower card with the Blackhawks. I'm like, oh, so cool. You know what I mean? Like, because that was such a short like blip in his career. But yeah, and I get to see Pat Maroon play for the Blackhawks, and I like Pat Maroon. I could be a fan. Probably not going to be a long contract, so I don't think I'll get a jersey. But
Most places he goes, he's a fan favorite.
yeah,
And his teammates sure seem to like him. So
I'm interested that Teuvo Teravainen is coming back to Chicago. I mean, he started his career with the Blackhawks. He was part of that 2015 Stanley Cup winning team. They traded him because they were trying to move Brian Bickle, and they wanted to move his salary. So they traded Bickle to the Hurricanes, but it was kind of like, well, we'll take this player that's making too much money, but you got to give us something else too to sweeten the deal. So they
Right.
had to throw in Teravainen, and that's unfortunate because Turbo, as they call him in Carolina, he was good with the team and he was a well-liked player there. And I always felt a little mad, like he should be on our team and he's on that team. So it's kind of nice to get him back later. I mean, granted, it's kind of like way later. Like you said, you'd be excited 8 years ago, but now we'll see.
Right.
Should be interesting. It's always interesting to see how players fit in on the new teams. I mean, sometimes they don't meet expectations, as you know.
Oh yeah, it always happens that way.
And sometimes they exceed expectations. So yeah, it should be fun.
I'm certainly looking forward to the new season. I can't wait till it starts. Unfortunately, we had to get through summer first.
Yeah, well, we'll think of stuff to talk about. So I think we're good. You good? I'm good. I'm feeling good about this show. You feeling good?
I'm great.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please be sure to like and subscribe. Please be sure to spread the word whenever you can. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so by purchasing a t-shirt at shop.puckjunk.com. And if you like to read, I send this great weekly newsletter that you can subscribe to at puckjunk.com/newsletter. And until next time, collect what you like.
For more hockey goodness, follow us on Twitter at PuckJunk.